Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's second video, which will be taking us well into the second half of April. So wind's going to be turning into east over the next few days. The weather will be becoming colder, and as we go into the weekend, we may well have some quite significant night frost, maybe even a few wintry showers in the northeast. Next week looks like we get a bit of a recovery in the temperature. So I'll go through the charts for you very shortly. Just to say that the ECMWF 30-day look ahead has been released. That was released earlier on this afternoon. And that's taking us into the beginning of May for the UK and the rest of Europe as well with the ECMWF season model. Tonight, we will have the second update for Easter. Easter updates have started. We started them on Sunday. The second update will be coming up for you tonight. Before I do anything else, I'm going to say a big thank you to our latest donor for Gaz Weathervids. So, Lloyd Garl has become Gaz Weathervids' latest donor. So, a big thank you to Lloyd Garl for becoming our latest PayPal donor. Lloyd, you're helping us to pay for the website, helping us to keep content online. So a big thank you, Lloyd, for your donation. Big thank you to all of the donors for Gaz Weathervids. It is really highly appreciated by myself and everyone at Gaz Weathervids. So a huge thank you to Lloyd for becoming our latest donor, and a big thank you to all of the donors for Gaz Weathervids. If you'd like to become a donor, as Lloyd has done, if you'd like to join Lloyd in becoming a donor for Gaz Weathervids, all you need to do is come to the Gaz Weathervids PayPal page. We link this on all the pages at Gaz Weathervids and in the description at YouTube. You sign in to your PayPal account and then send a one-off donation to Gaz Weathervids. And by doing that, as I say, you're helping us to pay for our website. Alternatively, you can become a patron for Gaz Weathervids. We've got 61 patrons so far. Big thank you to all of our 61 patrons. If you would like to become a patron for Gaz Weathervids, and by doing that, you would give a ongoing donation. So the idea is that PayPal is one-off, Patreon kind of like ongoing. Anything from $1 a month upwards, you just come to the Gaz Weathervids Patreon page, you sign up for a Patreon account, and then you will become a patron for Gaz Weathervids by pledging anything from $1 a month upwards to Gaz Weathervids. You'll pool in with all of the other patrons, and again, you're helping us to pay for our content, helping us to keep the website online. So a big thank you to all of the patrons, big thank you to all of the donors. Whichever way you do, you're going to get a mention in the videos, as Lloyd has done today. We'll give you a shout out in the videos, say thank you very much. As long as you want, but if you'd rather stay anonymous, as a few people have done, then that's absolutely fine. Just leave a little note with your donation. You might want a shout out for your website or business as well, so we're always happy to do that for you. However you want the mention, then just leave a little note with your donation, and we're happy to do that. So a big thank you to all of the donors, big thank you to all of the patrons, Gaz Weathervids. Special thank you to Lloyd Garl for becoming our latest donor for Gaz Weathervids. Right, we're going to start off with the Arctic Oscillation Observed and Forecast chart. So the black line here shows where we've been with the Arctic Oscillation. The red line's at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to go. Remember, this is just an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere over the North Pole. It's not driving anything, just tells us what the atmosphere is doing. We are now negative with the Arctic Oscillation, and quite significantly so. That's where we are right now. So from the end of March to the beginning of April, when the Arctic Oscillation was very positive, in around a week, we really have seen a dramatic plunge in the AO, and we are now in negative territory. Looks like we're going to go a little bit positive with the AO in around a week's time, so recovery of this negative Arctic Oscillation state. But into the second half of April, looks like the GFS ensembles want to bring the Arctic Oscillation back into negative territory again. So we could be going into a more pronounced period of negativity of the AO, such as we had going back earlier into the winter, up to the beginning of February, was generally in a negative AO phase. Looks like we could be going back to that, actually, as we're going through April. So when the Arctic Oscillation is in its negative phase, you're going to have high pressure blocking in the northern latitudes. Of course, that's what we've got coming up in the next few days, as this Scandinavian high is going to get going. It's going to turn the winds into the east. So that Arctic Oscillation being as negative as it is there, that's telling us what we've got coming in terms of this blocking area of high pressure. Same time, the North Atlantic Oscillation is on the move as well. So again, the black line here shows where we've been with the NAO, red lines at the end, where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go. For the first time in around 4 months, going right way back to the autumn. So I think last time was around October, November. So it's actually around 5 months probably. Last time we had a prolonged period of negativity of the NAO was back in the autumn. We did go slightly negative with the NAO around New Year, but other than that, the NAO has just been very, very positive throughout the whole of winter and into the spring as well. Where we are right now is that we have reduced down to neutral, so the NAO is currently neutral, but in the next few days, look, we're going into negative territory with the North Atlantic Oscillation, somewhere we haven't been for a very long time. And whilst a slight recovery does take place in around a week, and we go slightly positive with the NAO, it looks like that only lasts a couple of days before the NAO is again going down into negative territory into the second half of April. So we could be entering into our first protracted period of negative NAO conditions since around October or November. Actually, so the first time around 5 or 6 months that we've had a protracted period of negative NAO condition. And combining this with the AO looking like that's going into a more negative phase of weather as well, or into a more negative phase, this could mean we're in for quite a bit of blocking through the remainder of April, and possibly some fairly chilly conditions at times as well. I would have thought in April, if we're going to have both the AO and the NAO negative, we could be looking at some quite chilly conditions at times through the remainder of April. Although the trend actually, and I'll show you this in a moment, in fact I'll show you it right now, the trend at the moment is to lift the upper air temperatures up through the second half of April and turn things milder. But I think if we've got the AO and the NAO trending negative, may not be quite as straightforward as that. So these are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. Next couple of weeks, we're not looking at Nottingham today. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Nottingham. Where we are right now is very close to average, but through the rest of the week and into weekend, we're going to go colder. So there is going to be a cold snap at the end of the week and over the weekend. I think there's a chance of wintry showers in the northeast, but more seriously, I think will be the chances of maybe some very significant night frost, very significant for the time of the year. So gardeners, growers, farmers, particularly fruit growers, I think you will have to be very careful at the end of week and into weekend, with the risk of some quite significant and potentially very damaging night frost coming up. Now, as we go into next week, the temperature is staging a recovery, so temperature lifts up through the course of next week. And then the GFS ensembles generally want to keep temperatures quite mild going into the second half of April, even up towards the final week of the month. There are a few cold outliers mixed in. I think in the trends we're seeing within the Arctic and North Atlantic Oscillation, we need to stay quite sort of careful about this warming trend mostly the second half of April. I'm not sure it's going to be quite as straightforward as the GFS ensembles are showing to maintain temperatures above average. Yes, I think they are going to stage a recovery next week, so I think temperatures will become a lot milder next week. But whether we're able to sustain that with the blocking sort of tendencies that look like they're going to be taking place in the second half of April, I'm not sure. So just watch your space on what's going on there, I think, in the second half of April. It may not be quite as straightforwardly milder than average as you would think from that GFS ensemble chart. Temperature anomalies, oh, and dealing with precipitation, by the way, so plenty of dry weather coming up over the rest of this week. It does get a little bit more unsettled though into the final sort of week, 10 days of April. Right, temperature anomalies from the 9th to the 17th of April, generally a bit below average for the UK and for Ireland. In fact, it is quite a cold scene across many parts of Europe, actually. Most parts of Europe are coming out with colder than average temperature anomalies in the week ahead. Precipitation anomalies looking dry. So back to very dry conditions, not just for the UK, but much of Northern Europe as well, from the 9th through to the 17th of April. GFS operational run on Friday looks like this. High pressures in over Scandinavia. We're bringing the winds in from the east. Those winds will be bringing colder air with them. So if you follow the isobars back, you see that the air is going to be originating from north of east as we go through into the weekend, flooding down across Europe in that sort of direction and bringing, for the time of year, really quite cold air with them. That's Sunday. Again, we're in quite a cold easterly wind, and the wind is coming sort of the origins of the air, sort of north of east. There's the upper air temperatures. -5 Celsius isotherm has pushed through the country by Sunday. I mean, it doesn't look overly dramatic, but to get that from the east, that is quite impressive, actually, in the middle of April. Normally, those sort of upper air temperatures would be associated in the middle of April, anyway, with northerly winds. Northerly winds would normally be our coldest wind direction now, and easterlies wouldn't usually be overly cold, because the continent, of course, is warming up very, very rapidly now, as the sun is well and truly in our hemisphere. So as the sun beats down on the landmass, obviously temperatures will warm up very, very quickly over the continental landmass. So easterlies from now onwards would normally be a relatively mild, or at least not particularly cold wind direction, except on the east coast. So that's impressive, actually, to see that -5 Celsius isotherm push through the country on an easterly wind in the middle of April. It's quite impressive, and it's quite unusual for that to happen. Now, from now onwards, normally northerlies would be the only way we could get properly cold air into the UK. So as we go through to the start of next week, we keep those east winds going, but you'll notice what's happened by the time you get through to Monday is that despite that wind direction is still more or less due east, the origins of the air is now more south of east. So I keep talking about this a lot. The origins of a wind direction are going to be the primary factor at this time of the year when you're talking about easterlies. And that will start to lift the temperatures up through the early part of next week. And low pressure gets involved in this as well. So it does become rather more unsettled through the early part of next week with showers or longer spells of rain. But a lot milder. We've cut off that northeasterly flow of air, and winds are kind of like from the south or from the southeast too. We're heading up to day 10, and that gets us to day 10, which is Friday the 19th of April. This is Good Friday, and it sort of looks a little bit messy. We've got an upper level trough over top of the country, but our pressure is relatively high, actually, so there could be showers there for Good Friday, but overall I wouldn't expect huge amounts of rain. As we go through into Easter weekend, actually high pressure is sitting to our north, bringing the wind back in from the east. Once again, not particularly cold easterlies. Beyond the Easter period, tries to go more unsettled again. These areas of low pressure come back in off the Atlantic, but they're bringing relatively mild or maybe even quite warm air with them from the south. As I say, we will be doing an Easter update this evening, looking at the Easter weekend in depth for you around 7 o'clock tonight. That is the GFS parallel run. So again, we see that we've got high pressure building over Scandinavia at the end of this week and into the weekend. Winds are in from the east, and they're quite cold easterlies for the time of the year as well. Into the early part of next week, we cut off that east-northeasterly wind, and we start to bring milder air up from the south, albeit it could be a bit showery. Moving up to day 10, high pressure is re-establishing across the country, so that will give us quite a nice Good Friday, actually. And as we go into the Easter weekend, high pressure is maintained, although we're back to those easterlies once again. We just can't quite get rid of them, which is often something that you do get in April and May, of course. That's how we finish up with the GFS parallel run. Still looking pretty dry with high pressure close to the country now, sitting over and slightly to our west. ECMWF, again, there's the Scandinavian high on Friday, developing further through the weekend and bringing in these cold east or northeasterly winds as well. Those cold winds just about maintained into the early part of next week, but by Tuesday we're definitely starting to allow milder or warmer air to push back up from the south again. Into the middle and second half of next week, the Scandinavian high is not going anywhere really, it just stays up to our northeast. But again, the origins of the air from this sort of part of Europe, so obviously that is going to be a lot milder compared to the northeasterly origins of the air that we've got coming up over the weekend. So next week we maintain winds from the east, but it's relatively mild, and possibly for the south, this low pressure is threatening some showery rain from the south, but I would have thought a reasonable amount of dry weather through the course of next week with warmer temperatures will be the main theme. These are how the GFS ensembles are looking today via the postage stamps at the Icelandic Met Office. This is the option that's on the table for day 10, which is 19th of April. It's Good Friday. And we've got 51 out of 51 and 100% of ECM ensemble members that have this high pressure to our north and northeast. So Scandinavian high is there, but the wind would be coming up from a sort of east-southeasterly direction. So relatively pleasant conditions actually with that, I would have thought. Maybe a bit misty murky on the east coast. But most places probably relatively mild and fairly dry as well. So quite a nice start to the Easter weekend. In 2 weeks' time, 360 hours, which is going to be the 24th of April, just a little bit beyond Easter, we find that we have 19 members of the ECM ensembles that have above average heights, high pressure out to the west and northwest of us. So they're a mainly dry option. And the wind is kind of like coming in that direction, so perhaps a bit on the chilly side. There's 12 that have high pressure middle of the Atlantic, low pressure to the east-northeast of us. They'd be bringing down quite cold winds from the north, and they could be quite unsettled as well. 10 with high pressure to the south of Greenland and a trough of low pressure, albeit quite a weak one over UK, so they could be fairly cool and showery too. There's a trough within the 500 millibar flow, rather like that. And then finally there's 10 that look very nice. These ones have high pressure from the Azores into the UK and then going up to Scandinavia. Low pressure is out towards Greenland and Iceland. That's pushing the jet stream northern. So those are genuine spring. Those 10 just there. They're a minority option, however, but if they came off, that would be kind of option that would be lifting temperatures into the mid to upper teens Celsius with bags of sunshine for the last week of April. So it's those 10 with a genuine spring. Otherwise, probably relatively cool. The 19 that we have just here are cool but dry. The 12 and the 10 just here are again, relatively cool, but a little bit more unsettled. Finally, let's just have a look at CFS V2 for the next month before we go. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period will take us from the 9th to the 15th of April, and the coming week has the Scandinavian high up to our north and northeast with low pressure out to western middle of the Atlantic, and so we're bringing east or even northeasterly wind with those. Could be quite cold. A lot of dry weather, but potentially quite cold. Then we go through to week 2, which is the 16th to the 22nd of April. This one looks warmer, still with a high pressure to our north and northeast, but the difference now is that it's extending through the west of Europe down into Spain and Portugal, with low pressure in the middle of the Atlantic, and so that's allowing warmer winds to come up from the south or from the southwest. So that looks quite nice. Still mainly dry, but quite a bit warmer. Then we go through to week 3. This one is the 23rd to 29th of April. Below average heights start to appear then to our east. So that's a big change on what the CFS has been showing before. Low pressure begins to appear to the east of us. High pressure is up towards the south of Greenland and down towards Spain and Portugal. It's all a bit messy, but it could well be a little bit more unsettled and possibly quite cool as well, maybe bringing in some northwesterly winds. And then week 4 looks like that. So again, big changes on what the CFS has been showing recently. This could be an outlier run. It's very, very different to what the CFS has been showing over the past few days and weeks. This is week 4. It's the 30th of April to the 6th of May. with high pressure around Iceland and low pressure to the south of the UK. That's unsettled, particularly for the south, potentially quite wet and also potentially quite cold, bringing wind in from the northeasterly type direction with that. So that's very, very different, but if it's right, it suggests a cooler and more unsettled end to April and beginning to May. Temperature anomalies finally, the 9th to the 15th, becoming week generally a little bit on the colder than average side, but week 2 goes warmer. This is the 16th to 22nd of April. That one looks warmer than average, very pleasant. Then week 3, which is the 23rd, 29th of April, hints at being a little bit on the milder than average side too, before week 4 hints at being a bit colder than average, 30th of April to the 6th of May. That one goes a little bit colder than average. That's a rather different CFS run compared to recently. I'm not sure how seriously we should take that. If it's right, it suggests something a bit cooler or colder and more unsettled by the very end of April and into the beginning of May. And of course, the coming week also looking quite chilly as well, especially so over the weekend with those easy winds. That could be a possible scenario if the blocking is going to carry on with this negative AO, NAO type pattern through the second half of April. As I say, the GFS ensembles do look very strongly in favour of turning things milder next week and keeping them milder next week. But how straightforward that will be to maintain those milder conditions through the second half of April with seemingly quite a strong blocking pattern continuing, potentially effective in North Atlantic as well, so that's why the NAO also goes into more negative phase. How easy it will be to keep milder conditions going through the second half of April, I think we'll have to wait and see. Right, so we'll be back later on with the Easter update, second Easter update, I think, update number 2 for the Easter bank holiday weekend. That's going to be with you tonight. Tomorrow, 5-day forecast and another look at the weather for the next week to 10 days as well. The updates just keep coming at Gaz Weathers. We never stop. Right, so that's all for now, and thanks for watching.